So this session is called 10 Ways to Assess Health Skills, and it is being presented by our Shape Nevada Teacher of the Year, Nancy Clopel. So we're really excited to have her, and it's all yours, Nancy.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Andrew. So yes, assessing health skills, welcome. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. So the 10 ways to assess health skills. As we're going through this, I would love for you to think about the ways that you are assessing your students right now. If it's just on like, did you turn something in? Or is it something a little bit more than just that? You will have access to everything in here, and there's 10 ways, but we only have like 45 minutes, essentially 50 minutes to get through all this stuff. There's so many cool things that I have for you. I was putting everything together. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. So super excited. Let's jump into it. And like I said, you have links to everything. And if there's not a link that works, make sure you let me know, please. All right, so once again, I'm Nancy Clopel. I'm originally from Minnesota. The accent doesn't come out all the time, every once in a while when I get super passionate about stuff. So you might hear it today. I am the 2022 Shape Nevada Teacher of the Year for middle school PE. However, I am currently teaching health at ATEC. And I'm in my 19th year. I was only supposed to be here in Vegas for 1 year. I'm not a math teacher, but 19 years is a little bit longer. All right, so the really cool thing is that all this stuff is, like I already mentioned, it is accessible to you. Oh, hey, Janae. It is accessible to you. And here's a QR code. I will put this up again. And Andrew is attending with the chat. Thank you, Andrew. With the link to the presentation. All right, so what are we planning on getting out of today? So looking at implementing informal feedback for health skill practices, checking out some rubrics, and exploring different strategies to engage students. Because I know if I'm bored giving the information, guarantee the students are bored listening to it too. I always like this, don't forget, teaching I may remember, involve me, and I learn. So I try to get more student involvement, which is a great segue into Prince. So in that, tell me, how are you feeling today? Based on how he's looking. So give me a A, B, a C, or a D. All right, Jen. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. I might be a B right now just because I finished my coffee and I want to get some more. So I'm only a B. And Minnesota, Prince. Hopefully you got that connection. Oh, Dexon, you're also a B. Is it the coffee? The lack of coffee? You'll have some time. Get some more. Oh, yep. There you go, Heather. You got it. You got it too, Janae. Jealous. All right. Well, this leads me into my next, or my first one, number 10, lagnets. It's plickers and magnets. And I have this set up on a whiteboard. So when my students walk in, something like this is on the board. So then they can automatically, they can let me know how they're feeling. So I have it, how are you feeling? So this is a quick SEL. So this one is maybe not so much a health assessment, but it's going to be a quick check-in. So here are the ideas that I have for you. So the Plagnet handout. On this handout, so all the links, like I said, all these links are automatically for you to create your own and also give you some ideas of how you could assess it. This is really great at the beginning. So I scan clickers. If you're like, I don't know what this is, check out that handout. It does take time, a lot of time to set it up, but once you are set it up, you can use this at any time. I can use this at the beginning for an SEL check-in. So how are you feeling? I scan it while the kids are doing their warm-up. I walk around and be like, hey, you know what? I saw you you put it as an A. Are you kind of having a rough day? No, I just like the picture. Oh, okay. All right. Or maybe somebody put a B. They're like, oh, you're sad. Did you have a rough night? Did you have a rough morning? And then sometimes they go into it a little bit more. So that SEL check-in, just seeing where they're at emotionally, maybe they don't want to talk about it, but they want somebody to recognize. Also, it can be a halfway check. So guess what's going to happen at a halfway check? I'm going to check in with you to see where you're at with this content so far. And then an exit ticket. So this is going to be a quick assessment. It can get them up out of their chairs, and they can, magnets. Who doesn't like magnets? Magnets, stickers, two of my favorite things. And I have it in my classroom for an assessment. So like I said, once you get this presentation, you're going to have access to all this. And I'm going to go through these quick, but when you have time, all your extra time as a teacher, right? When you have time, take a look at these, and there's so much cool stuff. All right, role play. So if we're talking about getting into scenarios, we're talking about communication skills and decision making. So I put a rubric in here, a rubric for interpersonal communication, refusal skills, problem skills, and then also some scenarios. Another thing I want to point out also at the bottom, I'm going to give credit to Diane Farthing. She's a phenomenal teacher. I was able to go to a few of her presentations at the Shape America National Conference in New Orleans. As far as resources, I beg, borrow, steal. I am not going to be creating every single thing. If I go to a presentation or a PD and somebody offers it to me, absolutely. I'm going to take that. Hopefully I give credit to everybody, but sometimes I forget. I get so excited about something, I copy it, and then I'm like, I don't even know where I got this from. But you adapt it to fit, or I adapt it to what is going to fit my situation, my teaching style, my time frame. But all this stuff, most of this stuff, it's absolutely taken from somebody else. So, and likewise, I'm just passing it on to you. All right, moving right along. Number 8. So again, we're talking about 10 ways to assess different health skills. So we already talked about lagnets. We talked about number 9 was the role play. Having the kids go through the role play. Number 8, chalk the walk. This is going to be promoting and advocating for health services with motivational messages. It was super cool. So the art, so I got these from a few different people. So chalk the walk ideas. Our art teachers at a middle school that I was working at, they did chalk the block. And so they actually used the tennis courts, and they had the kids go out there and draw. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why don't I have the kids do this with some sort of advocacy project for anything? So there is also, let's talk about mental health. So the kids can promote advocacy, but there is also a planning period. So on the left side of the chalk the walk ideas, so you've got an intro slideshow that you can show the kids, and then chalk the block, the student planning. That was based on the art class, but you can absolutely use it as a planning for your advocacy message. The one on the right, that's specifically about mental health and mental illness, a PSA. So the kids can get chalk. They can use an area. If it's not going to be the tennis court, it could be, and the only reason I mentioned about the tennis court is because you've already got the lines there, and it can be easily separated with like painter's tape. If not, see if there's an area that on your campus that could be used. So 2 people, so Jessica Willis and Liz Craig at Mac Middle School, that's where I used to work. They were the art teachers there. I kind of got that inspiration, and I did a little bit more digging. And then the Health Teacher Central, Christina Marie, that's where the mental illness PSA, that idea came up. So for my semester exam this year, I'm going to be doing, they get a choice of what they want to advocate for, and they're going to do the chalking. It's going to be the planning part and then actually going into the advocacy. All right, we're already on number 7. Analyzing influences. So there is an interactive notebook. So this is from Jessica Matheson, the Shape America Health Teacher of the Year. So this interactive notebook talks about all these different, there's 10 different influences that you could look at. And the kids have to basically drag a little check mark. Is this going to be positive? Is this going to be negative? And then give an example. So if you're looking at specifically analyzing influences, that was great. It gets a little intensive because once the kids look at it, it is a little overwhelming because that one slide, and if they're on a Chromebook, that one slide, like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of writing. That's a spreadsheet looking thing. Also, substance abuse. Jennifer, also, you got this one already. The analyzing influences, substance use or substance abuse. Just talking about the different ways that is going to influence students to either use or not use substances or abuse substances. So that's a really great one. That's based on Nearpod. When you access it, please let me know because I did set it up in Nearpod, but I'm not sure about the whole sharing. I know Pear Deck, it's a little bit more accessible, but that is a Nearpod one. All right, accessing information, becoming familiar with credible and reliable sources of health information that kids are going to have to figure out, especially with social media. With social media and just different websites, usually what do? They just Google something, first thing comes up, that's what they got. So I've got 2 different ideas for you, the CRAP test. So that currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose, specifically that talks about accessing information. And then also I have another one that is local and Nevada specific. So they have to find resources that are local, and it is based more on Vegas. But then it also goes about, well, how are you going to access information based on your campus? So who's the principal, who's assistant principal, who's your counselor? So then they can go through those things because kids will be like, oh yeah, I've seen them on campus. I don't know who that is. And I know I'm speeding through these really quick, but I want to get through. And if you guys have any questions at the end that you'd be able to ask those, or making sure that you have access to all this stuff, because it's awesome. Awesome. All right. Since I was going through it so quick. All right. So how are you going through this? How's it happening so far? Baby Yoda, put in the chat. Give me an A, a B. I don't know why they're mad though. I mean, A looks kind of like they have coffee. I wouldn't be mad. A, B, C, or D. Okay. Good, Andrew. Good. All right. All right. Good. Good. Awesome. Okay. Now, another way, I'm going to refer this back to the 10th way. The first one that I talked about was the lagnets. It's only 4 different answers. And when I talk about how are you doing so far or how are you feeling, I usually set it up to the same thing. A is like, not good. A is not good. Like, so this baby Yoda is mad. So you're just mad. B is usually sad. C is like, you're all right, you're good. D is like, yes, let's go. I'm rocking the world. I'm ready. Bring it on. So I usually set it up that way each time. So then it's a little bit more consistent from one day to the next day. And I don't know if I actually mentioned it on Plagnet. So I gave you access to all the different ones that I already set up. So the Prince, Baby Yoda. I think I had one. Who else? So different. It's a combination of like between art, SpongeBob, Patrick, Mario, Luigi. So I already have those set up because those are the ones that I use. And on that slide number 10 for the lagnets, you have access to all that too. Oh yeah, good idea, Jennifer. So putting a word with the picture so kids interpret the image correctly. However, that can also lead to interpretation. Like, what are you looking? How do you interpret it? Because absolutely, A could be like, okay, you're crabby, not mad. B is like, I don't know what B is. So sometimes it is really fun to hear when the kids walk in, their interpretation. But some of them absolutely are confused. They're like, what is that supposed to mean? I don't even know what that is. So putting words sometimes, or just leaving it open to interpretation. All right, just checking on the time, making sure that we are good. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so maybe I should slow down just a little bit. It's okay. All right, so comic strips. Great way for kids to communicate, apply decision-making, refusal skills, assertiveness, and show depth of knowledge. So I know that comic strips, if you handwrite them or have the kids actually draw versus I know Canva, Canva also has an option that you can go in and have the kids create the comic strips. And for this, what I also want to talk about is the way that you use the assessments or the rubrics. And I'm absolutely guilty of this too. For the original rubrics, I would have everything. Like, how does it look? Did you use color? Did you, is your spelling and punctuation correct? Do you have everything that you're supposed to have? So all of those were weighted the same. But if you really think about it, we shouldn't be assessing on the use of color. Because if we're looking at the actual standard, if we're looking at the standard and we're looking at a skill, then we should be assessing the skill. So I put two different rubrics on here for an idea. So the skills-based rubric on the right side, this one specifically deals with sexting. So there's an infused performance indicator. So the performance indicator, I also have a link to at the end under resources that you can specifically put that under. So that standard criteria, if you are specifically going to address the standard, then you can break that down with like a level 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't use colors. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't have it nice and neat. But the non-standard criteria below, that's going to be worth less, but it's still going to be important. So thinking about that, and like I said, I'm absolutely guilty of putting everything together, all worth the same. Now, as far as a skills-based rubric, now I have a better idea of going forward. How am I going to actually assess the skill, not just like, hey, did you do the assignment? And let me touch real quick on the skills-based. So skills-based is if you're looking just at the skill and versus, yep, you did it. I'm not 100% skills-based because I'm still in the process of learning and seeing how it fits in my classroom and how I can do the best. Because to jump right in, I am I'm not confident yet. Growth mindset yet. So if we're talking about transitioning over to skills-based and looking at that versus just assignments, like just get it done. Still having that idea of how could you adjust your rubric or your grading to a little bit more skills-based. Jennifer, pretty similar to the scenario assessment, but more creative. Could you expand on that, Jennifer? Are you talking about like a comic strip?
Yeah, so it's a comic strip. You're pretty much, can you give an example of, like you said, can you give an example of what it would look like?
So if you, if the comic strip, if it goes a scenario, like if I'll use the sexting one. So if there's a male and a female or whatever, two people are they're texting back and forth. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, if he's like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, nope, nothing. And he's like, hey, why don't you take a picture for me? And she's like, oh, I don't feel comfortable doing that. He's like, why not? And then she would say, oh, well, I don't feel right. You know, you have to accept my boundaries. So, and then he's like, in the real world, probably not, but in the comic strip, you're right. I will accept that. You don't need to send a picture.
Okay.
So breaking it down and then looking at the rubric saying, okay, coping with the health consequences of coping with sexting, demonstrate a refusal skill, and then to avoid or reduce health risks. So if you're breaking that down a little bit more and just looking at those little parts, and obviously giving the kids a heads up on the rubric saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Make sure you incorporate that. Once you're done, how would you grade yourself? So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so they're creating the scenario instead of the other assessment. It's a pre-made scenario.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
You can give them a general topic. So if it's going to be about sex, or if it's going to be on substance use and abuse, if it's going to be on, so you could use these. And that's the other thing, that these could absolutely be in any strand, in any content that you're talking about. So you could apply it. Yeah. Or you could give them a specific scenario. This is what it is. Let me see how it plays out. Oh yeah, you could use the role play scenarios too. Absolutely. Good idea. All right, self-management. So the students are going to be reflecting on their own health habits and creating a plan to maintain or improve. So these are very generic. There's a Google form check. Just how are you feeling today and what are you grateful for? So something to remind them of that gratitude thing. And then the journal entry on the right side, that's a whole week breakdown focusing on different health habits. So recognizing health habits, how are you maintaining them? Did you do anything about it this week? So just having that management. And once again, that could be handled or addressed each week, each content area. Would you rather Wednesdays? Oh my gosh. So the interpersonal communication, this stuff, every Wednesday, these questions, I don't even know. I always swear that I'm not going to do these questions again because the kids get so into them. And sometimes I'm like, okay, we got to get to actual content though now. So these would you rather questions. So would you rather eat only foods that start with the letter A or eat only foods that start with the letter C? And the kids are like, can we say pizza? I mean, I like where you're going with that. However, so they get pretty creative and they want like the boundaries. And I was like, well, would it make a difference? The conversations, and you really get to know the kids and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have guessed you would have said that. And then all of a sudden it just comes out. The stuff that the would you rather, they can't say neither and they can't say both. That's like the only two rules that I have. Can't say all of it. So there's examples of those questions on there. And it's something fun. The kids walk in, they're like, okay, what are the questions for today or this week? And it gets a little bit rowdy, I will say. Okay, choose your own adventure. I don't know how many of you, I don't know how old you are, you don't have to tell me, but the choose your own adventure books, I don't know if you guys ever read those. And I used to love those. And you can either have the kids go through like a pre-made one, right, Ashley? Used to love them. And then there was one time I tried to read it straight through and I was like, hurt my head, can't do that. So you could either have something already pre-made for them or have the kids make their own. So they could actually create their own adventure story. Oh, I just noticed there's a there's a little thing, story, to practice generating healthier alternatives, predicting outcomes, and evaluating decisions. So here's a planning template, a student sample, and a rubric. So the rubric is very minimalist. So you can absolutely, obviously, extend that. But the planning template is going to go through and break it down. So if you have, okay, here's the scenario. Then you've got the one outcome and then another outcome. So you start with, essentially, they've only got two options. So you've got the one outcome, you can choose A or B. Okay, so then if you choose A, then after that, then you've got another A and B. So then you can keep on going. Also with the planning template or the student sample, there is a blank template that you could use. Actually, I don't know if I put the blank template on here. I might have to update that. So you've got the planning template for the students to actually have a plan first, then it will be using Google Slides. So then they can go through. So they have to think about the outcomes. They have to think about what could possibly happen. What are the options? So this is another great way that you could apply the decision-making model. Because if you just tell them, all right, let's go through this all on their own, the D, the E, so using DECID as far as the decision-making model, but having the students go through this on their own, they have to create up the options and the consequences. So them thinking on a higher level, that's that would be, it's definitely a different level. That's all I can say. Heather, this would be great for a drug unit, decision-making, consequences for those decisions. Yeah, because a lot of people don't think about consequences. They only think about usually negative. But then is there any positive? Well, hopefully they don't, like, yep, drugs, let's think about positive. Any kind of situation. And saying again about if we go back to any of the other content, starting with 10, 10, 9. So going through all of those, you could apply it to any content that you have. Yes, protective factors, risk factors, any of those things. Probably one of my, okay, I might have to extend this a little bit more, but probably one of my more favorite concepts of presentations is one-pagers. And it's literally just like it sounds, everything onto one page. Not creating a pamphlet. I don't want to see a 10-page slide. I want you to give me one page and here's going to be all the content. So we're talking about advocacy. We're talking about research or accessing the information. We're talking about also improving or talking about consequences. So what is this one pager? I use it for both mental illness and then also substance use and abuse. But you could, again, you could apply it to another example that I have is environmental health. So environmental health, I talk about natural disasters, and then they could choose that. So mental illness, there's a list of mental illness topics. So I give that out to them. They choose one of those. And based on the rubric, you choose the formatting. I don't want anything besides the one page, not a poster size, but it's a one page. You create the format, but this is the content that I want on it. So we're talking about basic stuff that these kids can actually just look up. Cool, they learned something. And then the advocacy, how can you find or how can somebody get help if they have this? Also for substance use and abuse. So after I have them complete the one pager, and some kids, they do good old fashioned paper. And I also have templates. I just noticed I don't have the templates on here. So I'm just going to write myself a note, add templates. And then for this adventure story and the one pager. So I do have also a template on actual paper that they can use. Some kids are super creative. Other kids like, I need some restrictions. Give me some lines. It can also be digital that they have the same template, Or some kids use Google Drawings. Some kids use just a slide. Some kids use Canva. It is up to them, because I'm not going to restrict them on a specific format. It's also going to help them minimize their information, and how are they going to organize it. After the presentation, after they complete the one pager, then they actually have to present it. And this is how I get around 40 kids, one kid presenting at a time. I actually have them present to small groups. So they present to small groups. And then the third thing down on there, the peer evaluations. So if you're sitting at a group of 6 people, you're presenting, you got 5 of your peers evaluating you. It's a very short, I have 9 on a page, double-sided. So it's on a scale, eye contact, engaging, preparedness. So the kids are actually looking at their peers and evaluating their peers. On the backside is, tell me one good thing about the presentation and one thing that you could improve on. So their peer evaluation, I take a look at those. And obviously during the time I'm walking around and listening to the presentations, we can get done with all presentations between like 30 and 40 minutes. Instead of, I don't want to say wasting time, but sometimes it is a waste of time, because the kids, if they're not presenting, they're zoning out. They're not really paying attention. So this way, there's 5 of them, 6 of them in a group, small presentations. They really have to work on their voice projection. So then, and the stress level, oh, you just have to present to your small group. Okay, good. I don't have to present to the whole class. So you're getting them engaged more, because now you're taking away that pressure of presenting to the whole class. So they present, peers evaluating. Okay, done. Now I have them do what's called a gallery walk. So the gallery walk is, so whether it's on paper, whether it's on a Chromebook, they are setting it up so they can walk around, the rest of the students can walk around and they can check out all the different presentations. And so the mental illness gallery walk or the substance use and abuse gallery walk, those are the half sheet forms that I have them fill out. They have to focus on three that were not in their group. So this group over here, you just sat there and you just listened to them. You can't fill out the paper based on those. You have to walk around, take a look at the other presentations or projects, and I want you to write down 3 different mental illnesses and then 2 facts for each of those mental illnesses. So now they can focus. I mean, yes, they can focus on what they're actually going to be taking in, but now they actually are a little bit more likely to actually pay attention. So this is absolutely one of my new favorites, is the one pager, getting the idea, getting the research, presenting it, and then also getting more information on it. And I can do all of that, besides the research, I can do all of that, presentations, peer evals, and the gallery walk, all in a 85-minute period. So it happens quick, they're getting the information, they submit that all, good. All right. And this also is in that slideshow on number 10, the lagnets. So how well do you understand the information from today? So if you put A, not yet, B, almost, C has got it, D is wow. So what Jennifer brought up earlier, so if you actually had the words associated with whatever that picture is, and the cool thing is on the lagnets, the ones that I made is it actually has these words and these same emojis on it. So wherever they turn the magnet, that is also going to be pointing up. So then they'll say, oh, well, A, not yet. And the same emoji. So it's pretty cool. But it does. I bought my own magnets. I printed out the stuff. I organized everything. So it does, like I said, it does absolutely take some time. All right. Oh, Evelina. Okay, C, D, awesome, awesome. Good. All right, let me talk about some resources to end this, or to kind of wrap everything up. So your resources, the National Health Education Standards and the Performance Indicators, you have a link there to specifically the National Health Standards. But also we have the Nevada State Standards, which are going to be based on the national standards. So there's a link to both of those. And the state standards, like I said, pretty sure I addressed all of the standards 2 through 8 that you would be able to actually address any of those. The YRBS results, focusing on that information. So like I said, take whatever from this presentation, use it specifically for your teaching style, the information that you want to use middle school or high school level. So then you can focus on that. The HECAT, that is a resource that will help you develop assessments, but that is through Shape America. I've gotten some of my semester exam questions from there, or even certain module questions. Shape America resources, that there's so much. There's so much from there. RMC Health. So the RMC Health, if you are looking more for rubrics, RMC Health, it breaks it down. It has posters, it has rubrics, it has different things specific for levels. The accessing information paper or slide, I got that rubric from RMC Health. So that is an amazing one for, and it's consistent with the rubrics across all of the standards. Because my rubrics are kind of all over the place. You go on to RMC Health, those rubrics, they've got the same kind of formatting, the step 1, the step 2. It's awesome. And another resource, like I said, I will take everything from every professional development that I go to. So the more that you can get to any kind of professional development, even if you take one thing away, even if it's like, not doing that, well, at least now you know. So hopefully you can take something, even if it's, hopefully it's something. All right, Shape Nevada. Shape Nevada website, there's a membership form link. The next Shape Invigorate workshop is on, not next Saturday, it's Saturday after, so on 12/3. That is on adapted PE best practices. I will be presenting in March on health content. So Shape Nevada, I absolutely am going to promote it specifically because I'm Shape Nevada Teacher of the Year for middle school PE. But I've taught health and PE for the past 19 years. All right, more resources, good old-fashioned books. Yeah, books. So the essentials, so lesson planning for skills-based health education, and I do actually have a good old-fashioned book right here. Yeah, so the essentials of health education, this breaks it down a lot more if you want to work towards, hopefully you want to work towards skills-based, the skills-based health education, because so many times we are getting into just like, did you do it? Yep, you showed up, cool. Versus, did you actually learn the skill and apply the skill and can practice it? So hopefully you are shifting that way in your teaching. More activities that teach, that's that hands-on stuff, that hands-on learning, the activities. I've taken that book is pretty old, but I've still taken that stuff, and it gives you questions to follow up with after the activity, not just for the sake of doing the activity, but there's learning involved. All right, so I talked super fast. I know that I am technically done a little bit early. Andrew, sorry about that. But I want to make sure I got through all this information. So if you had any questions, this is your opportunity. There's also the QR code for the link. Andrew put the link in the chat. Thank you again, Andrew. And also there's the link on the actual slideshow. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If there's anything, any other resource that you want to or have a question on, that's my email address. Please feel free to reach out to me. I have no problem sharing the information with anybody. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to share it with me and Andrew. And hopefully you get some other good stuff from the presentations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. If there's any questions, please feel free. We have some time left over for you to have some Q&A with Nancy. Her presentation I've dropped in the chat numerous times, so hopefully I didn't miss anybody as people were coming in. And I will put in the session title, session number, the room number, and the session survey and attendance tracker. So it looks like we have a question in the chat. Nancy, do you teach the reproductive system?
I do. I teach, we're actually currently in sex ed right now. I keep sex ed very clinical. There is not too many of these concepts that I use, just because I do want to keep very minimal, and I want to keep some control with I'm definitely, I don't think I'm going to be doing any role plays or scenario. However, there is actually a texting one. So back to Diane Farthing, she did this really cool scenario, and I think I could put that in there too. Maybe, I don't know if I did, but it had to do with texting. It was based on paper, and I have it right here. So it was more not necessarily the comic strip about sexting, but it would be more of a situation where if it was a scenario, and then tell me 3 ways that people could actually respond to it. And sorry, I totally lost. Sometimes I space out. I see something shiny. So it's not necessarily about the sexting, but it's going to be about, no, it might be a way of how kids are going to be responding. So if there's a situation that happens in person and then they're texting their friend, and how should I do this? And then it talks about a pro and a con. Like if somebody's just like, nope. Okay, well, what's a good thing about that? What's a bad thing about that? School admin, so Dexon, A&P. So A&P, I mean, from my understanding of A&P, it's going to be very clinical, not necessarily about relationships so much. Heather, information on my presentation in March, that's going to be on the Shape Nevada. So Heather, are you in CCSD? Or are you, no? Okay. So then I would suggest, because, well, Andrew, you send out the information for Shape Nevada presentations, right?
Yes, I do. So I can add you, Heather, or if you can also, here's my email address. I will put that in the chat as well. You can feel free to email me. And then thank you, Janae, for putting that Shape Nevada website in the chat as well. So all those are all ways that you can get in touch and register for the Shape Nevada session that Nancy will be doing in March.
Yeah, absolutely. So Janae had talked about networking opportunities and workshops. So yes, absolutely. Here's a little plug for Shape Nevada. So if you pay for the membership for the year, then there's monthly workshops, usually on Saturdays, that you will have access to. Normally it's $15 for a workshop, but if you pay for the membership, which, Andrew, how much was the membership again? I don't want to say it wrong.
It's $35.
Oh, there you go, Janae. So if it's $35, and even let's say that you go to the one in December, even though you don't teach adaptive PE, well, that's $15. The one in January, that's $15. So you're already at 30. February. Okay, so we're talking about if you go to 3 workshops, 3 Saturday workshops, you got your membership paid for, essentially. It's a pretty sweet deal, I will say. All right, so I think it's at, what are we talking about? 10 more minutes officially in this session. The next session starts at 11:20. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah. So the next session will be in the same room at 11:20, and it's with the Hospital for Special Surgery, with Moving Better with their physical education curriculum that they offer. And it's all for free. So that'll be a great session to attend as well. But if there are any other questions, feel free to. So I see, Jose, how do we get PD hours for those sessions? So are you talking about the Shape Nevada sessions, or are you talking about these sessions that we're in right now?
Shape Nevada.
If they're from Shape Nevada, what happens is at the conclusion of the session, you'll fill out a survey and you'll receive a certificate that goes directly to your email, usually within about 5 minutes. As far as the sessions here at the conference go, if you fill out this session survey that I put in the chat a little earlier, here I'll put it in the chat one more time, just so you don't have to scroll and find it. But you have the session survey and attendance tracker. Once the conference is over, we'll issue those certificates. So if there's not any other questions for Nancy, feel free to take a break before the next session, and we'll be back here at 11:20 to start with Connor and HSS. So thank you guys, and a special thanks to Nancy. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Nancy, can I ask you, how many actual like old school tests do you give? Do you give one for each unit?
Yep. I do usually some sort of either project or short answer. That's going to be a summative. And then usually between like a 10 and 20 module quiz, that it's going to be at the end of each module. So yeah, I do absolutely old school, multiple choice, true, false. The other thing with that is if you go on to HECAT, so I'm not sure if you're Shape America, the national member, but the membership for that, like I think the assessment tool, that's worth it just on its own, because it breaks it down, and the questions are not just a DOK 1 level. So the level of like rigor in those questions, even if it's multiple choice, it's going to be higher. And so I'm looking at them like, oh, that was a good question. So just for that on its own, that's where I take a lot of the questions. It's usually a mix of what's already in Canvas, and then also from that HECAT, that assessment tool. And then usually, so for example, for the 1-pagers, so we just finished up substance use and abuse. And so I had the module quiz, and then instead of the short answers, it was based on their 1-pager content presentation, that whole content. So those were my 2 summatives for the substance use and abuse module.
And I also dropped the HECAP tool that the CDC has on their website, so that they have some tools and resources as well, along with Shape America. So you have both options to kind of navigate.
Nice. Anything else? What else you got, Jen? Nothing else?
Trying to think. I would love to pick your brain.
Well,
I can't think of any questions right now.
you should also do one of these presentations because you've been teaching about the same length of time, yeah?
I've been in the district 15 years, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But when they get you to coach year round, it gets harder.
Oh yeah. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, we can always, let's do coffee. I'm always about coffee. Let's do coffee sometime.
I know we should be PLC members. Get some CUs.
Yes, do it.
Yeah, we should. That'd be kind of cool. Do like a video chat once a month or something.
That's a really good idea. We could talk to Chip and see if we could get some hours for that. Or Andrew.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I
Can
hear
we
all
do
you
coffee chat?
statewide. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about maybe doing something like that. That'd be it's a great idea.
Heather's in.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But I hear if you just make an agenda, you could use it PLC, use it for your CUs.
PLC, just information, just give me some good stuff.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I know Weber would be in.
No, I think we get a lot of people in.
Yeah, I think so too.
You did a good job. That was good. I'm excited to go through your PowerPoint.
Oh my gosh, all this stuff. Like if you can go to